Right, let's get straight to Wembley and join our senior reporter Rob Dorset, who has details of the squad in full. But Rob, it's the inclusion of Ivan Toney, really, that will make all the headlines this afternoon.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Emma. That's the big news. We predicted it, didn't we, on Sky Sports News earlier on today, that Ivan Toney would be the first Brentford player to be called up by England since 1939, and there's his name in the squad, and that is one of the headlines, yes, for sure. But some really interesting ins, some really interesting omissions from this squad. And bear in mind, this is the last squad that Gareth Southgate will name before the World Cup. Then it's key. This is key for the futures and the World Cup prospects of so many England players. 5 in, 4 out compared with the squad from last May. An enlarged squad of 28 players as we expected. Let's talk about those headlines. Ivan Toney, that'll be the biggest story, his inclusion. Eric Dier recalled for the first time in almost 2 years. No Rashford or Jadon Sancho. You have to say it's going to be difficult for either of them to make the World Cup squad now. Let's look at it in a bit more detail, shall we, as we try and digest all this information. Let's look at the goalkeepers. Let's take it position by position. So the England goalkeepers, we knew that Jordan Pickford would be missing from this squad because of a thigh injury that's keeping him out for a month. So Dean Henderson, the Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, comes in. Key question amongst those three that you can see on your screen, which of them is going to make the step up, be used most often by Southgate in these next 2 Nations League games and become the natural understudy to Jordan Pickford for the World Cup. Moving on to the defence now, and again, Eric Dier. We suspected that he would be included in this squad. The form he's in for Spurs over an elongated period. He is in, but he hasn't played for England since December 2020. Almost 2 years out of the England fold, so big news that he's back in. Harry Maguire, fully expected him to be included, but the debate about his lack of game time and lack of form for Manchester United will go on, despite the fact he's been such a key player for England for such a long time now. Ben Chilwell and Luke Shaw, both included, despite getting so little game time for Manchester United and for Chelsea respectively. I think that hints at the lack of options Gareth Southgate has at left back right now. Ben White and James Justin not included on that list. Particularly tough for Ben White, who's been playing very well for Arsenal, but he's been playing largely right back, so maybe that's cost him here, owing to the fact that Southgate has a lot of right back options. Let's move on to midfield. This is an area where Gareth Southgate is particularly stretched. He names only 5 midfielders in this squad. Doesn't have a lot of options other than that. Conor Gallagher, though, misses out. That's something of a surprise. Yeah, he's had a bit of a hard time of things returning to Chelsea, but we thought he might be in. Jordan Henderson injured, so don't read too much into the fact that the Liverpool midfielder is not there. And then we go on to the forwards, where all the real stories are. Ivan Toney, as we suspected, included in his first England call-up. He was playing for Peterborough just 2 years ago. He will now be training along the very best that England have at St George's Park. No Rashford. Now, we know he's got a minor hamstring injury. That's clearly been too significant a problem as far as Manchester United's medical staff have communicated to Gareth Southgate and his team of coaches and physios for him to be involved. Big blow for Marcus Rashford. A real surprise, though, that Jadon Sancho is not included. He's behind the likes of Phil Foden, Raheem Sterling, Bukayo Saka, Jack Grealish, Mason Mount. It's a position where Southgate has so many options, but clearly, look at that other name that's there. Jarrod Bowen keeps his place instead of Jadon Sancho getting the nod. That is a huge decision by the England manager, and it suggests that Jarrod Bowen, despite a difficult start for him and West Ham this season, is way ahead of Jadon Sancho in the England manager's thinking when it comes to that World Cup squad that he'll announce at the back end of next month. Whew, take a breath. There's always a lot of news when we get an England squad. It feels like there's more significant news now than usual because this is the last one that Southgate will name before the World Cup. Much more analysis over all of that as we digest it on Sky Sports News over the coming hours. And we'll look as well where Southgate has a lot of options in certain positions and other positions where his options and his resources are very thin. But plenty of headlines already that we've got to digest from that squad announcement that's just happened.
Yeah, so many headlines, Rob. Go and take a breath. We'll chat to you soon.